Airline training can be one of the most exciting parts of your career. You probably just came off from flying 135 or flying for flight school, and now you're going to go fly the jets. So on this video, I'm going to talk about how I trained and how I prepare myself for airline training. There are a few things that you want to know before you get to airline training. Usually those are memory items. If they send you this computer-based training, you want to have an overview of those, flows, and reading sometimes the company manuals. Obviously that's all if the company sends that to you before. If you don't have it, then there's a reason probably why you don't have it. They don't want you to know it before. So in that case, don't worry about going through a friend and trying to get the FOM and start reading that stuff, because they can give you stuff that is outdated and now you learn something that you don't really need to know. So when it comes to memory items, what I do for memory items is usually I'll make flashcards and get those flashlights with a friend, go to a Starbucks and start asking me questions. What is this? And then I'll do them in reverse. Like, what is the speed? What is this limitation? And the company will tell you what those memories items are. Again, don't try to go to a friend that worked there at one point or works there now, because sometimes they won't give you the updated information and now you're learning something that is not necessary. When it comes to flows, again, try to get everything from the company. They'll usually send you all this material. I'll go ahead, if they send me a poster of the aircraft, I'll go ahead and laminate them. This could be a little expensive, especially when they send you 3 or 5. But laminate them, I stick them on a wall, and then I'll go through my flows on the wall. So when I get to the aircraft, I know exactly where everything's at, and I don't have to be, oh, where's the electric panel? I don't know. That really helps. Sometimes the airlines will send you the computer-based training. If they send them to you, make sure that you go through them, because you'll have a very good knowledge of the systems of the aircraft before you get to training. I know, for example, with Republic, I wouldn't recommend you do the computer-based training before you get there, because when you're gonna do the computer-based training in class, and if you already know the stuff and you gotta sit through it in class, you're gonna be bored to death. So there are some airlines that you will do them in training and some that will have you do them at home. So make sure you know exactly who you're working for and what style of training they use, so that you're not going through this computer-based training 3 times in a week and you're completely bored in class because you already know the stuff. Reading the FOMs and the manuals for the company, again, make sure you have that up-to-date information. I know I've said this 3,000 times, but what you learn once is going to be really hard to erase that out of your mind and put something in again. So make sure you have up-to-date information and read these manuals. You don't have to highlight this stuff or read it 10,000 times. Just read over once, and that should be more than enough before you get to training, so you have an idea how the company runs and how it operates. This is for somebody that has transition training. I'm going through, not necessarily transition training, but if you're already an airline pilot for an airline and you're going to another airline, for example, I'm running through that right now. Most of you guys don't know, I'm a pilot for Republic Airlines, but I'll be a pilot for Spirit Airlines by the end of this month. And since I knew I was going to go through Spirit Airline training, what I did was I went and jump seat on Spirit, so I knew how the airline runs. It gives you a better understanding of what's going on in the flight deck when you read these flows and you're like, okay, well, I wonder when this happens. But if you actually know the flows and you get in the airplane and you see the crew working as a crew and running through the flows and all the procedures at Spirit, it really, really helps, because now you have a very good understanding of how stuff works. I know when I was going through training at Republic, I would read these flows and I was like, this stuff doesn't make sense. When do you do this? When do you do that? Before start, where do you do that? So, knowing that really helps in your training, because what point, what are the key factors? What is the key, like, to know where I'm going to run this checklist or where I'm going to run this? So that really helps going through the operation. Warning there, some crews run cockpits differently and they deviate from FOM or company materials, so it's also important that you know what the actual book says and not just follow what the crews do, because sometimes crews will deviate from standard operating procedures. This way of learning the training applies not only to airline training, it also works for 135. Working for a 135 operator, I had to do the same thing. I had to read the GOM, learn the memory items, and learn the systems of the aircraft. It's actually harder for this stuff because they don't give you computer-based training on a Cessna 402. You actually have to crack open the book and read about it and see what it is. You have to open the FARs and go through the 135 section of the FARs and actually know that stuff to prepare for your oral. So it still is the same thing. It applies to 135 and to an airline. So this could also apply for anybody that is going through a 135 training program.